shambolic defending. You gotta force the team that you're playing against to do the things that they don't want to do. So if they have speedy forwards who like to attack, you have to dominate the midfield and have them defend within their own half for the whole entire game. And the way you do that is you got to increase the intensity and speed of play and the speed of your ball movement, your tempo, and your ability to attack, to transition from offense to defense and defense to offense. You gotta raise that, and the way you do that is by creating a practice routine that encourages you to elevate your training routine. And this is very similar. I say the same thing in almost every single video. All my videos in coaching either focus on a simple routine for skills development, and then a simple routine for once your players have the fundamentals to train as a team. Then I say the same coaching routine because it's so simple and it's super effective. It's possession, finishing on goal, crossing and finishing, and then playing to big goals on a small field with your team split up into three. The team that's sitting out surrounds the field as neutral players with one touch. So let's break down each one of these things. Right, for your possession game, you want to have the field be tighter than normal, right? And you want to do that because it forces players to maximize the space that they have, and it encourages faster speed of play, right? If you've got a tighter area, it forces the teams to make quicker decisions, right? And then you could start limiting their touch count. So if you're not already playing possession games, a simple possession game is, you have two teams playing possession against each other, and then 4 passes, right? 4 connected passes scores a point, and then it's first team to 5 points wins or something like that. And then you could start restricting their touch. So then you could say at first it's unlimited touch, and then you say, okay, now it's 2 touch, 1 on the takeover. 1 on the takeover means if Penny steals it from Shirts, in the little scuffle of, there's a scuffle between players to win the ball. Once one team clearly wins the ball, now they have 2 touches to play, right? So it's 1 touch. They get 1 touch extra for the scuffle, for this kind of the battle for the ball, and then they have 2 more to play after that. And then if they're advanced enough where they're connecting passes effectively with only 2 touch with 1 on the takeover, then you could restrict the touch count even further. So 1 touch with 1 on the takeover. But you have to be the judge of that. So that's something that might be challenging. When do you know when there's the right time to restrict the touch count? You gotta trust your gut, because I'm not sure. Then you go right into finishing on goal. Right, finishing on goal is you start the line of players. Each player has a ball about 10 yards, right, 10 steps higher than the 18. Then with no whistle, it's just finishing on goal. So if they dribble as fast as they can to the top of the 18, and then it's a low, hard driven shot in the ground into the side netting, right? It should start to become clockwork, where they come to the game and there's no hesitation, right? It's just beeline to the goal and then finish low and hard on the ground, and every single shot is on frame, right? On frame in the side netting. There should not be one single ball that's to the left or to the right of the goal, and then anytime anyone misses, you gotta say out loud, you gotta say, make the keeper make a save, right? You'd rather have the keeper make a save than the player misses the goal, because that's a free save for the keeper. So if anyone is missing the goal, you gotta tell them, make the keeper make a save, right? Just drill low and hard side netting. And then after 10 minutes of finishing on goal, what you want to do is you want to do volleys, right? So this is the Doug Nevin practice routine, and he would call the second part of the finishing routine of the finishing drill, he would call it Volleysville. So he would face the goal, and you're going to start at the same place that you're starting a Slotsville, right? Slotting the ball. So this is you're starting, right? Doug would stand about 10 steps above the 18. Players would hand him the ball and then face him with their back to the goal. Then he would throw the ball over their head. They would spin around, right? They'd spin around, and then one touch volley on goal. So you could do 10 minutes, right? Maybe you could do 8 to 9 minutes of Slotsville, and then you'd maybe do 5 minutes of volleys for a total of 15 minutes of finishing on goal. And then you go right into crossing and finishing. 4 lines total. 2 crossing lines, right? All the balls are split up to the left side crossing line and the right side crossing line. And then you have 2 lines in the middle. No balls. The lines in the middle, they're going to crisscross their runs when they finish on goal. And then you alternate the right side and the left side. Who goes every time. And all the lines are rotating. So if the right line goes, right, it's a fast dribble up the line, slightly diagonal run. They cross the ball in. And then there's the finishing lines, they crisscross their run, 1 touch finish on goal. And then the left side goes, right? Left side, fast dribble up the line, slightly diagonal run, cross the ball in. It could be in the air, it could be on the ground. 2 lines in the middle that are, right, the crossing lines are slightly in front of the finishing lines. And everyone's starting about where the halfway line is, right? So the crossing lines are starting a little bit in front. Then they fast run, slightly diagonal, curved run towards the goal to make the cross easier. Cross, and then, right, attacking lines, zigzag. They cross their run, finish on goal. And then you might need to pause 2 or 3 times to reset the balls, bring the balls back to the crossing lines, you know, if they've gone beyond the goal or if they're in the goal, right? So 2 or 3 times to reset everyone, reset the lines, just even out the lines, even out the balls. And then you go right into 3 teams playing to big goals on a small field with the team sitting out as neutral players. And the reason why it's important to have 3 teams is because if you only have two teams scrimmaging each other at the end of practice and one team scores on the other team, there's nothing gained and nothing lost, right? It's hard to appreciate it if it means nothing. So if you only have 2 teams playing against each other, it doesn't raise the intensity of training. But if you have 3 teams playing against each other, king of the hill style, what starts to happen is, right, players who love playing want to play. So if you get knocked out and you have to be on the outside, right, you're pissed. So this raises the intensity level because this keeps the team sitting out engaged since they have 1 touch on the outside. Since they want to get back in the game, they're going to be very engaged. They're going to be playing good 1-touch passes to whatever team plays them in the middle, right? The 2 teams that are on, they have access to all these neutral players on the outside with 1 touch. And, you know, Doug there was never a restriction of touches during 3 teams playing against each other in the end of practice. Some problems that might arise if you don't have enough goalkeepers, then you could do sweeper keeper or Roman goalkeeper, so the last person back can use their hands. Something else, another problem is maybe you don't have access to big goals, so you can do, if you have 1 big goal and then the other side has 2 sets of cone goals that are split far apart that teams have to defend against. Or if you have no goals, then it's 2 sets of 2 goals, right? So, and then if you have uneven numbers, then maybe you have one of maybe your best midfielder, he stays on the field at all times and is a neutral player with, he's got a red penny or something like that. So, that's it, right? You finish the practice on an end note. There should be no water breaks. Right, players should just get water whenever they choose. They don't even ask. You tell them, just go get it. But it should be a very, very high tempo from the start of practice all the way to the end. The practice is the fitness, right? You shouldn't take time away from practice to do fitness. It should be built right into the system. And as players start to get into practice, you can have them play 2v5, right? So kind of right from the jump, it's like, okay, who's got their cleats on they go right into 2v5, and then right when, it's like it's like this is practice, and then this time period right here, that's important too, because you gotta have players get their cleats on. They start to play 2v5, and then once everyone's kind of playing 2v5, right, groups of 7 playing 2v5, then once they're all assembled, you go right into team warm-up. Team warm-up goes right into possession right into finishing on goal, then crossing and finishing, and then bang, right into 3 teams playing to big goals with the team sitting out as bumper players, raising that intensity of practice, raising the competition level, so that when if this game that you're playing against these speedy forwards is a few weeks away, you want to do this every single practice, so that you're going to see the speed of play increase, you're going to see the transitions from offense to defense, and you should just be burying teams, because with this practice routine, what you're going to do is you're going to see the most intense practices you've ever seen if you haven't arranged practices like this, because it's the essentials. It removes the guesswork out of what's important, and this is something that any coach can do, even with a bare understanding of coaching before. Each drill is self-explanatory, easy to do, easy to execute, easy to teach, right? And you do the same thing every practice, and as you do it every practice, your team will actually get better at the same exact drills, and they'll become more fun over time. Right? A lot of coaches are looking for new drills, complex drills, right, with a lot of moving parts. It's like, nah, forget all that. You want the simplest things that you could do every time, that's fun and repeatable, and it's like clockwork, right? So the ball's just, moving fast, and everyone's making quick decisions, finishing on goal, getting the ball moving, and then you could start to play different possession games. That's one variation. You could do, if your numbers are right and you got the right number of pennies, you could do 3-team possession, monkey in the middle style. That was always my favorite possession game, but you need the right amount of numbers and pennies. And then another fun possession game is 2-team possession with gates on the field. So you put, with the flat cones, you put some gates on the field, and then to score a point, you got to go through the gate. And then what's going to happen is the defending team will try and defend the gate, right? Because if they don't defend the gate, then you could go back and forth, score a lot of points. So then the offending team has to recognize the pressure of the defending team and then swing the ball to where there's an open gate. So that's just another, right? Those are 3 different variations of possession games, and then everything else falls into place. You could switch the point of where you start the finish on goal line, right? You could do it slightly to the left, right? Slightly offset to the right. So that's another variation you could do with finish on goal. And then crossing and finishing, just by the different crosses and just by your different, different crossing players, different finishing players, there's variation built in, and then there's always going to be variation, because you're going to have, at the end of practice, with 3 teams playing to big goals, because in theory you should have, I don't think you should pre-select the teams. I think you should just go have 3 captains, right? 3 best players on your team, and then they should pick the teams, because then it becomes a true reflection of which players should start. Because sometimes you might have favoritism, but more times than not, the best players will pick the other best players, especially if it's getting real competitive. And if you want to give your team a fighting chance, you got to pick the best players. So it kind of is a true. It's like the first picks don't lie. It's like you're not going to pick the worst player first. That will rarely happen, and that's why you don't want to be picked last, because that really means that you're the last. That means you're the worst player on the team if you get picked. But it kind of reveals something, and it's almost a good thing if you get picked last, to a degree, because that means you gotta step your game up. So that's why you always have variation, because if you have 3 different captains, then they'll might choose new players, so you should be aware of the players that your players are picking, because then that might help dictate of who you should start in games. So that's how I wouldn't drop my line deeper just to account for speedy forwards. You gotta press them to make them uncomfortable and do things they don't want to do the whole game. Right? If the whole game they're defending and you have them, right, let's say you score a quick goal and they think that they're gonna, they think just because you got fast forwards they're gonna dominate, but you kind of bring the heat to them the whole game, they're not gonna like that, and they're forwards, they might score a goal or two, but if you practice this practice routine over and over and over, you're just gonna destroy them, because your speed of play and intensity is too high, and if you can possess the ball in their defensive half, you're gonna have great success. So hopefully this helps. Reach out with any questions. All right, thank you.